Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into FFU Fantasy Football University. First time
Welcome.
with our new moniker under our new situation here. I am Mr. Bill DeCousas. I'm here with Mr. Tom Lang. How are you doing, Mr. Lang?
Oh, I'm just living the cocktail life down here in Florida this week. So, we're living the boat life, and we're bringing you some great content this week.
Yeah, apparently. And by the way, for any of our viewers looking back, that's not a like special, AI generated or computer generated background. No, no, no. He's actually there in a on a vacation, a mini tropical paradise situation. And Tom Lang coming at it doesn't matter to Tom Lang. He's coming here giving some fantasy analysis for everybody, no matter where he's at. So,
That is right. I'm here for the people.
all here for the people. Um, well, welcome everybody. As we mentioned, it's our first show under our new moniker. We got a lot of stuff going on. We're gonna be doing a lot of improvements to our channel, to our whole situation here. We're really excited to bring this to you guys, and we thank everybody for being with us and joining us on this journey.
Sure.
Today is. Let me make sure we get the day right. Today is May 7th. Uh, 2025, and we got a whole bunch of stuff that we got planned out. But today we're going to start a first in our series of reacting to the NFL draft. It's the most salient thing, all the fantasy relevant analysis that you could possibly glean. We're going to do it by division, and for a little bit of taste, we're going to be starting with the NFC East division today. I'm sure we got a lot to talk about in terms of what's been drafted, any of the recent NFL news and notes from around the league. So we will jump into that, and then we got a little surprise at the end of the draft, at the end of the show for everybody.
Well, I mean,
Quote
it's not really a surprise. I mean, guys, like Billy, stop being so secretive here. What
yeah.
we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be doing a 10-round mock draft that basically is post NFL draft, indicating some of the rookies that are relevant within the first 10 rounds. We'll kind of do like a speedy draft, and then we'll articulate our reasons behind our draft picks. Say if we reach up a little bit for somebody. And the good thing is, like, you guys are going to be able to see the different kind of trends that are going to happen in this off season, and where people may fall that are actually being projected higher, vice versa. So it's going to be interesting for us to really put this content out there for everybody to see it as it grows through the next couple months.
Yep, exactly. Um, and I'm excited. You ready to jump right in? Because all of our news are basically all draft related. You want to jump right in, or any general thoughts about the NFL draft before we jump into the NFC East here?
No, I mean, obviously there wasn't any like big splash trades that were potentially being, anticipated. I will say the one, and obviously we'll talk about him, um, you know, most likely in our draft because he's not going to be spoken about in this NFC East conversation today. Um, but there, for the Jaguars to pass on Alshon Jeffrey and let him fall to the Las Vegas Raiders, I think that was very, very interesting. Obviously, it was anticipated for it to happen. Um, they were in need of a running back. They weren't so sincere about Sincere McCormick, so they went with the stud, and they got themselves a nice running back there. So, again, we'll talk more about him in the draft later. Um,
When we cover the AFC South, or
yeah,
sorry, when we cover the AFC West, actually.
yeah. Well,
Um,
but yeah, again, we'll be talking about him a little later on in the
I,
draft, most
also
likely.
for prudency, I wanted to ask because it's going to come up when we talk about the AFC North. So if we wanted to touch on the Shador Sanders thing at the behest of us being screamed at by half of the world in the
No,
comment section.
I
Um,
don't think anybody needs to talk about Shador Sanders. He's gonna have to Tom Brady his way, and as Tom Brady says, prove everybody.
yeah, well, for the sake of brevity, I'm going to leave it there because I have a bit to say about the situation, but we'll save it for the AFC North. We'll when we get to that.
Let's
Um,
save it for the AFC North.
all right, so let's jump into the NFC East. It was a very interesting draft for most of the teams. But the first team we're going to talk about, it wasn't so interesting for fantasy. So Philadelphia Eagles basically went the entire draft going defense. And Howie Roseman is a genius, and trust him when it comes to building out a great team. They already had a great defense, and the strong get stronger, the rich get richer. I don't see how the Philadelphia Eagles are not the number one defense going into the next year for fantasy purposes and for the NFL purposes.
Yeah.
They grabbed every guy that they grabbed, it seemed like it was a steal. I remember them saying like Andrew Mokaba, for example, they got the safety in the second round. He was ranked like 30 or like 20 or 30 places higher. It was like it just was one guy after another. Um, yeah, do you see any way in which they're not as dominant or more of a dominant defense next year?
No, I mean they're just going to get better. I mean their defense, I mean their offense is, still pretty stacked, obviously with Saquon leading the backfield there. But in relevance to defense, I mean it's just it's only going to get harder for that NFC East. I mean, we'll talk about the Cowboys making an off-season trade today, um, you know, in a few couple minutes. But I mean, obviously that defense is stacked. It's crazy. It's getting a little too crazy, I think, honestly. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Eagles back in the Super Bowl next year based on the moves they're making.
Especially in the NFC, they should be
Yeah.
right up there. I mean, it's do
Well,
you
yeah. I
think
mean, again, there are some teams just like the Washington Redskins / Commanders, coming back to life after the past couple of years.
I can't let that
Um,
go. It's the
well, I
Commanders.
did that one on purpose, but the biggest thing is, there's going to be some hot streak teams, but there's going to be some relevant teams that are always going to make their way back to the top. And I think that the Commanders are going to be that team that really fights that battle. But I think overall the Eagles, I mean, on paper, it's just unbelievable what they have, and the strength of their um, defense and how young they are. It's going to be incredible.
They are. They're just going to be so good. I mean, if anything, I wonder if having such a dominating defense is going to suppress their fantasy value on offense to a degree. I mean, you and I were both saying that Jalen Hurts, maybe he's likely to. I mean, they can't just run the ball every play, really. I mean, or can they? I mean,
I mean, they
uh,
did it last year pretty much, so.
they did, and I know you're thinking that AJ Brown is likely to get traded or moved
No,
away in
no.
some way.
That was the conversation in the draft that if um if if Carter was going to fall, if Duke Carter was going to fall past three, which I never thought that was ever going to happen because he was the best pick in the draft. Not speaking as a Giants fan, but just in relevance. I mean, he was the most athletic, he was the best player in the draft to pick. Um, I think that they were obviously trying to make a push for him, and they were willing to part ways with aforementioned AJ Brown if that was the case. But again, it didn't happen. The Giants got him. We'll talk about him more in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
but
I think to a degree, I mean, they really do. Like we're going to be seeing more of the same this year as last year. They still have a chip on their shoulder. You know, they're just going to be such a great team. They're going to be such a
yeah,
great team. I don't think I don't know how they're going to. I honestly don't know how they're going to lose any game unless it's just some kind of a fluke situation. Well, speaking of how they do lose, I mean, one of the teams that did beat them last year in the regular season, that's the Washington Commanders. So let's
I
talk
will.
about.
Well, it's just before that though,
Oh, sure, sure.
the Eagles did continue the trend by taking a Georgia player, Georgia linebacker, Sam Smail Mondon, if you want to correct me.
Believe that in the
That's how it's written here.
in the
Um,
latest array of Tommy pronouncing.
yep. I mean, if you want to look that one up, I mean, but I think you would pronounce it the same way that I just did. But they did take their Georgia guy. They got their Georgia guy, and let's move on to the Commanders.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Commanders, they didn't particularly make any splashy things at the top, but it should be
No.
noticed that they spent their first round pick on a tackle, and I thought he was I thought Connerly was a great tackle. He goes to the
It fits the
Commanders, which
system too. Fits the system.
exactly.
It's a mobile quarterback system. So, that is a really good, pick for them at that position.
Yeah, and they, from their perspective, they were happy with how their offense was. They have stability, same head coach, same offensive coordinator. They had so much success, and they're kind of bolstering what's already there. I mean, they're
Hmm.
happy with how their offense runs with a lot of their weapons. Fix their offensive lineup. You can never go wrong with that. And then you could just see by their second round pick, they went cornerback. So it's like, okay, we're happy with all our weapons. Let's go offensive line and defense. It's exactly what they did. I do want to mention, so their fourth round pick. So it's a lower hit rate for fourth round picks coming through, but it should be mentioned because he was kind of being mentioned a lot on the media. So Jalen Lane,
Yeah.
um, so very very talented player out of Virginia Tech, and I bring him up just to mention that you and I are both very high on McLaurin this year, but we actually might forget how old McLaurin is.
It's
So
29, right?
he's 29. Right. And he's getting like this is kind of starting to get to the age where, it's starting to like I think
How,
I
I
think
mean,
he's
how
got
old is how old is Tyler Lockett? I mean, he looks like he's 65, but I mean, how old is he really?
I mean, but you and I let's be consistent. We're both very high on McLaurin. We think he's got one more great year in him. And then I it's
I don't agree with you on that. I mean,
you
he doesn't have one more great year.
well, I'm
I
saying
think I
that
think he's in. I think, honestly, McLaurin has been good. He's been sustainable. He's been wide receiver three prior to last year. I think the next you probably have wide receiver one, wide receiver two numbers for the next 3 years, and that's
oh,
what it dissipates.
I
That's
completely
fine.
disagree.
That's fine. You could completely disagree all you want. You could pass some on him in the draft as well too.
He says that every time.
You could pass some
Every
on in
time
the
I,
draft as well
every
too.
time it's never good enough for me to disagree with you. It has to be like, fine, just let it go, and then I'll get the guy.
Hey,
There's
it's
no
fine.
way.
Winners win, losers lose. That's right.
All right. Well, either way, we feel as good about him for
FFU.
it's an FFU to you. We feel as good about McLaurin for this year. I just thought we'd mention, and also from the wide receiver perspective at Washington. So obviously they lost Diami Brown, but they bring in Debo Samuel. I'm lower on Debo than you are for this year. So just worth keeping in
Yeah, I mean,
mind.
I'm not high on Debo. I think he's going to have relevance on the roster, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to particularly go towards fantasy relevance as much as we believe it's anticipated. Um, I don't know. It's a weird situation.
Here's a question for you: Who is the who who leads the team in catches in 2025? McLaurin, right?
McLaurin, yeah.
Who's second in catches for the Washington Commanders?
I mean, I have to say it's going to be Debo, but I honestly think that it could be also Zach
Robinson?
Ertz. No, I think it could be Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz. You think Zach Ertz is still going to be good uh
Yeah,
for the
I think
umpteenth year?
this
Okay.
is I think he finishes. I mean, obviously they have a nice backup tight end there that's going to
I
be
mean, there's a
relevant moving forward.
lot of promise in Sinnott to take
Yeah,
over.
I understand that, but you don't bring back a player for 1 year and pay the guy to come back, in a starting role without there being relevance for fantasy as well too. He was super relevant as the season went on last year, and I anticipate it to continue.
Okay. Um, so let's move on to Dallas. And so it's amazing how we could laugh at the situation. I actually think Dallas had a really great draft, but it's no surprise that Dallas is bereft at one position, which we'll talk about. So Dallas went defense and offensive lineman as they should. First round 12, pick 12. They go Tyler Booker, guard at Alabama. He's a
That's a
great
good pick
player.
too.
It was a great player. Second round, they go right to edge rusher, which they needed too. I mean, they short up some spots and they go defense again in round three. They didn't go offense until round five. Jaden Blue from Texas.
Hmm.
And as we know, like later day three or later running backs almost never work out. So I just want to point out that Dallas Cowboys had a 1,000 yard rusher last year, Enrico Suave, and decided to trade
Who
him
now?
away.
No, 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 no. They didn't trade him away. He just didn't re-sign with them. He's decided to re-sign with the Carolina Panthers that have five running backs.
Right, right. On top of the rookie coming back from right, and you're counting him
Yeah, yeah,
among the
Jonathan
list.
Brooks,
Yeah, and
yep.
already had Chuba Hubbard,
Who they
who's
extended last year.
amazing.
Yeah,
Right.
makes a lot
So
of sense.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened there. Maybe it's partially on Rico for not making sure that he gets. Rico would
Or
be
maybe, or maybe it's on Jerry Jones.
well, a lot of this is on Jerry Jones, but Rico, like if Rico was still there, he'd be a really he'd be in position for a great year, honestly. I don't know what Dallas is going to do at running back. Um, who's their starting running back now? Is it right? They brought in Miles
It's
Sanders.
Javante, no, it's Javante Williams,
Oh yeah, it's Javonte Williams.
my boy.
Okay, play out for me how you think the running back situation plays out in Dallas.
I think this, as we spoke about this early on when Javante Williams signed with Dallas, I think this is a tremendous move for Javante Williams in that offense.
I
Especially with what happened this morning, with opening the field a little bit more and getting another wide receiver aside CeeDee Lamb. I think it was a great move for them.
it's a
I
it's a
mean,
great move for him.
George Pickens is a tremendous wide receiver. He got
Sure,
traded to Dallas this morning.
right. But what I'm saying is that like if it's a
What are you
great
saying? I
opportunity.
mean, well, yeah, it's a great opportunity. There's not going to be eight men in the box. There's only going to be anywhere from six to seven men in the box, if that. And the relevance now, you have Ferguson, you have Schmo that we just spoke about that likes fighting with everybody. CeeDee Lamb, um, so you got all that talent outside, and then you also, I mean, Dak Prescott, he is no bum. He's no bum. When he's healthy, he's no bum. He's
No,
a top
he's not.
five quarterback. So
Well,
so when you have that,
fantasy. Yeah.
yes, but when you have that and you have a good offensive line as well too, which the Cowboys have, they don't have the best offensive line like they did 5 years ago, but they have a top 10, top 15 offensive line right now. It's a better offensive line that Javante Williams had at Denver, and it's not circulated around him. His rookie year was all circulated around him. Then he got injured, and then he was in the doghouse all season last year. I think this is a fresh start. He's gonna have that Dallas star on his shoulder, on his helmet, and he's gonna really take the initiative. He's gonna be a very, 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 very relevant running back for fantasy.
I think he's be very relevant, but and I agree with every single thing you said. I guess my trepidation is on Javante's ability itself. I think that I mean he's multiple years removed from the injury. He was multiple years removed from the injury last year, and I mean he was losing
Yes, but his coach was
carries.
Sean Payton,
He was losing
who
carries
hates running backs.
to Tyler Bidet and Audric Estime. He does.
That's fine.
Sean Payton does not hate running backs. Sean Payton would rock and roll
Apparently, he
with.
does.
Oh, we've had the Deuce McAllisters and the Mark Ingrams and the Alvin Kamaras and
Because
the
they drank the
Pierre
Kool-Aid.
Thomases and I'll stop it. He's put it this way because of the running back situation in Dallas. You're right. The lead running back for Dallas is going to be extremely fantasy relevant because there's nobody else there. I
It's going to be
just
more fantasy relevant than it was last year. Let's just put it that way. And
that
he's a better and he's a better running back than Rico.
don't you dare disparage the name of Rico Suave.
Well, apparently Rico Suave realized that he was not that good, so he went to a team with five running backs.
That's not what happened. It had something to do with money. It was, listen, they had 1,000 yard rusher when they were trying to horseshoe in Ezekiel Elliott last year for a bunch of the games, and he still went for 1,000 yards. And I don't know what his yards per attempt. It was like 4.5 or 4.8 yards an attempt. He was fine, and now he's gone, and now we're going to be rocking and rolling with the ghost of Javante Williams. We'll see. If Jaden Blue has any opportunity, he went to the absolute best place he could
Yeah.
in terms of if a
Is he
fifth round
related
running back.
to is he related to the other blue that was on Texans 4 or 5 years ago? What was his name?
I'm sure he
You, you,
is.
remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. See, I'm sure it is. It can't be that common of a name. Jaden Blue.
Alfred Blue. They're not directly related. Well,
Okay.
I
He
mean,
was
having a
he
last
was
name Blue, it's pretty. Pretty crazy.
There was like one game Alfred Blue was good in. It was like if you like one game where other guys went down or whatever it is. But anyway, there we go. It'll be interesting to see. Oh yeah, so the let's just touch on. I was going to mention up until this morning, I would have said. Remember how we were talking about the early ADP of wide receivers, and I was having some cautious feelings about CeeDee Lamb, and I thought, hey, listen, I might be more inclined to take Amon-Ra over him at 3 or yada yada. Up until this morning, uh, thinking about the draft, I would be like, well, Dallas has nobody else to throw the ball to. I'm feeling really amazing about CeeDee Lamb here. And so I've kind of revised my feelings on CeeDee Lamb, and he's the clear cut 3. Now with the George Pickens situation, I wonder if it's kind of cut into it a little bit. How do you see that?
I don't know if it cuts into it as much as people think. I think it's going to be a better version of Mr. Homecoming that just went to the Saints, Brandon Cooks. It's going to be a better version of Brandon Cooks. It's not really saying much, but I do think, he's going to get anywhere from 60 to 80 targets because CD does get hyper targeted. He's going to get anywhere from 60 to 80 targets. He's probably going to catch about 80% of his balls. So he's going to have anywhere from 50 to about 70 catches for the season. But he'll break 1,000 yards, have high touchdown numbers. I think probably anywhere from 7 to 8 touchdowns this year. So he'll have relevance. I just don't think he's going to have the same appeal that he did on the Steelers because he was pretty much the only primary guy at that
You
point in
don't
time.
think, do you think this, you've already made it clear when we covered wide receivers that you think CD is the clear cut 3. Do you think this devalues CD at all?
No,
Okay.
no. If anything, I think it may put him ahead of Jefferson, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, and my reason behind that is because, obviously you don't know where you're going to get. I understand we're really talking a lot of hype with JJ McCarthy, but you have to go more so with the consistency ratio of Dak and CD, and then obviously putting another talent on the other side. It's going to open the field a little bit more for CD, as well too. So he'll have man coverage, single man coverage. He won't be doubled as much, nearly as much as normal. Um, I think it's going to be really good for that offense overall. So I think he's still going to get his 100 plus targets. I don't think he's going to find 130 plus targets for the season. I think he's going to find himself between 100 to 120, which is still a lot. Um, but again, a lot of these balls sometimes are just very heavily overthrown balls, which sometimes are just not as catchable. So I mean, again, the targets are one thing, but I think he's gonna receive anywhere. He's gonna have under 100 receptions, about 95 receptions, but he'll break 1,000 yards and have multiple touchdowns. So
Interesting.
I think value wise, I'd feel safer picking him number 2 wide receiver going off the board over Jefferson.
So do you, I mean, like from your, we haven't gotten, we'll get to it more in the off season when we start talking about tiers and rankings, but the way I'm hearing you say is like, okay, CD now, instead of being a clear cut 3, has now at least entered tier 2 with Justin Jefferson at the very
Yeah,
least.
he's entered tier 2 because of the fact
Okay.
that he has the camaraderie with Dak. Dak is healthy. There's another opportunity on the outside as well too that's going to draw attention away from CD.
Gotcha.
I think that opens more doors for CD Lamb to finish very strong.
I think, having listened to your arguments about it and having thought about it, I think I agree. I think if we end up, I mean, if first of all, if anybody ends up disagreeing among guys that are within tiers, that's perfectly fine. That's what tiers are for. So
Yep.
if we end up lumping in CD Lamb as a tier 2 wide receiver, and you see a preference to CD Lamb and I see a preference to Jefferson, they're in the same tier. There's no
And they
disagreement
usually
there.
and
So
usually at the end of the season they cause a couple tiers here and there as well too.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to
Well,
see when we.
meaning that they cause a couple tiers, for
Oh,
people that didn't
no,
pass, that passed on
man.
them.
There's always one every episode. The worst dad joke that you've ever heard from
FFU.
from Tommy. All right, so let's talk about your New York Giants here. We got a lot to talk about. So I was extremely happy with their first round guy. Abdul Carter is an absolute beast. It's exactly what they needed. And okay, let's get into it. So I've been saying all offseason that I think Jackson Dart is the real deal. I think he's awesome. And I see a level of talent in him that I saw in Patrick Mahomes, that level of arm talent with mobility, poise. Like he's definitely a little bit wild, the same way Mahomes was. He's going to need some time to get that a little bit under control. But for the future for the Giants, very, very, very bright with that. That having been said, that's the future. We're talking about fantasy relevant for this year. Jackson Dart's not going to be the starter. He's probably not even going to be the backup. It's going to be a combination of Russ and God bless our favorite player in the whole wide world, Jameis. So, um,
I think it's unfortunate. I don't think Jameis has even touched the field.
you think it's just going to be Russ the whole time?
Yeah, I think he's a trade candidate for later in the season, to be honest.
Interesting.
Here's my perspective with the Giants. I think the Giants did what they did was they drafted a quarterback and they want to basically put him out there late in the season, like what they did with Eli Manning. Kurt Warner was a veteran quarterback at that point in time. He was in there. They actually were winning. They had a winning record, and then they threw Eli Manning in there, and it didn't turn out so well. But they didn't throw him to the Wolves to start the season. They put him out there and it just, kind of flowed. And the next season came around and things got a lot better. The craft got better. I think that's what they're going to probably plan to do. I think Russell Wilson, if he stays healthy, or obviously, like I said, Jameis Winston, I don't think he's going to see the field unless Russell Wilson gets hurt. Um, but I think both of those guys are bridge quarterbacks for later in the season for Jackson Dart to really take on the helm and see what happens.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the only way, he's got to learn the speed of the NFL. The speed of the NFL really um, gets a lot faster than it was in college, especially playing at Ole Miss. Obviously it's a great, division that he plays in at Ole Miss, but it's not the NFL. The game speed's a lot faster. Read speeds for quarterbacks has to be a lot faster. You can't be a 30 for 30 quarterback in New York City. We all know that.
I don't think that's going to happen. I'm telling you, I see a level of talent, and I see a level
Yeah,
of talent
I,
there. It's just, and again,
the one
nobody
thing I
else is
just don't
talking
like
about him like this, but
I
yeah,
know. The one thing I just don't like about like what you say, he's, got that Mahomes-esque, which is fine. The problem is I think all these players these days want to be Mahomes. And, that creates so many problems on the field and so many mistakes that are made.
right,
And
because they're not
honestly,
Mahomes. That's the
no,
point.
they're not Mahomes. They can be better than Mahomes. They just have to work on their craft at this level.
Right. Well, I mean, God knows if any of nobody's going to be. Patrick Mahomes is in a class of his own. I'm just saying the level of arm talent that I'm seeing from him is a level that I haven't seen for like a long time. Like
Yeah, I agree. He's got
it
to put on a
reminded.
little bit of size. He looks like a little child. I mean, but I also got to remember, being 37 years old. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm 37 years old, and I look for these players, and be like, "Yo, these guys are boys," and then like some of them are just men, and then like obviously you look back and be like, "This kid, Jackson Dart, he looks like he's back in high school,
Right. Well, he's not that
but he's
far
a great
from
football
moving.
player."
He's a great football player. The Giants with their third round pick again went D line again. Darius Alexander, another great pick for the Giants. And then I want to spend 2 seconds talking about this. Their fourth round pick,
I
Cam
want to
Sc-
talk 5 seconds about this.
so Cam Scatterbo from Arizona State.
Yeah,
Okay, I think here's another guy. I think he's great. If
this
you
was a
just
fantastic draft pick.
first of all, we should set the stage here. The draft was so deep with running backs, so I'm not even counting necessarily basically up till the fourth round anything against any running backs about where they got drafted. That's how deep it was. That having been said, Cam Scatterbo was in my like you have Ashton Junty at the top. He's in that next tier to me of the guys that you could have drafted. He was great. My favorite little stat here about this, he was the only running back besides Ashton Junty to force more than 100 missed tackles on the ground last season. Super fast, super athletic. I think he's great. And considering he's walking into a running back room in which he could just take over at some point, maybe not immediately, but some point throughout the season, like
I don't
I
think
think
he's
this is
gonna.
great for them.
I don't think he'll take over. I think it's gonna be a nice fire and ice, uh, shift right there. You'll have Tracy and you'll have Scatabo, Scatabo, Tracy and Scatabo in the backfield. Really just one's going to be the punch and one's going to be the speed. And I mean they both got speed, they both got punch. So I think it's gonna be interesting. Cam reminds me of kind of like a smaller version of a Mike Allstar from back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um, and you never know. I mean, he could just get that really, really big shoulder pad that basically brings that neck brace up and just makes him look like uh, Mike Allstar.
Yeah, he's gonna be good.
Yeah.
The New York Giants in general, how happy are you with the draft in general? Very happy then?
Yeah. I mean, I think three out of what, six picks? Yeah, six or seven picks were tremendous. I think the rest just kind of filled a lot of the roles that were needed. Getting the tight end at Nebraska and then the cornerback that was needed. I think it was a really, really nice draft. I mean, I give them, a solid A for the draft because of the splashes they made. Um, and honestly, there's a lot of critics on the Jackson Dart train and whatnot, but I think it was a nice fitting role for the quarterback right there.
Assuming Russ plays the entire season for the most part, I mean, do you like
I wouldn't
I don't
be I wouldn't be unhappy with that either. I mean, if they're doing well and they're making a playoff push, then yeah, I mean, it kind of like would be the Mahomes kind of handoff,
maybe.
down the, kind of with Alex Smith.
Do you think
So
they can make a playoff push? I mean, what's annoying is that
they have
if the
talent.
Giants, it feels like if the Giants don't do well enough, they're going to fire Dable, which I think is bad because I really do think he's a good coach. Um,
I don't know. I mean, we'll see after this year. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not really on the Dayball train right now. Just want to see what happens.
okay. All right. Reserve judgment.
I'm very
So,
reserved with him.
so there we go. That's the NFC East. Some of the implications. So yeah, we'll get on to some of the other divisions in our future episodes. So to close out the show, Tommy, why don't you explain to everybody?
Yeah, so we're doing a 10 round half point PPR sleeper draft. Obviously very, very early post NFL draft. We're gonna go through this. Right now I am seated at the number 4 seed and Billy is seated at the number 8 seed. 12 man. The rest is on auto. We'll explain our picks, why we're kind of trying to fill our roster the way we're filling our roster. And obviously the first round is going to get interesting. So, um, here we go.
First round is going to get very interesting. So, Mr. Thomas, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I see everything. Perfect. You
All
did a
right,
good job, Billy.
very, very good. So yeah, it's exactly what Tommy said. We're going to be using Sleeper because we love Sleeper. That's going to be our platform for this. This 12 team PPR. We're going to be trying to be doing a bunch of mock drafts for you this off season. We'll talk through our feelings. We'll try to get through this pretty quickly, at least for the initial couple of rounds to get you guys an idea. So let's get the draft going. The computer's going to take the all the picks that we don't have, so we'll get rocking and rolling. Oh yay!
All right. So here comes my situation, right? We're talking about there's Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb, and there's also Jahmyr Gibbs on the table. Now, half point PPR right here. Obviously, two running backs went off the board. If I don't take a running back here, I got to really push for running back in the next later rounds early to really fill that void. But based on my earlier conversation with Mr. CD Lamb and also Justin Jefferson, I am going to take with my number 4 overall pick, the number 5 ranked player on the board, CD Lamb.
Well, number 5 in terms of what Sleeper says. So
Correct.
interesting.
Then
I
after
think
that, then after that, sorry, then after that, Justin Jefferson went, Puka Nakua, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, and now
right.
it is Billy's turn.
And now it's my turn. Yeah, so this is actually gonna be a really easy pick for me.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, so if Gibbs had gone off the board before this, I'd have a more difficult decision to make between, wide receivers and running backs left. But this one's easy. I mean, we see Barkley, Robinson, and Gibbs leagues ahead of the rest of the options. And falling here to number 8 would be Gibbs. To me, it's easy. I'm taking Jameer Gibbs, the number 8. And
Wah, wah.
yeah, we'll summarize as the computer goes on.
Yep.
So,
Then Nico Collins went, Derrick Henry went, Malik Neighbors, and at the 12, Drake London went. Then JSN went back to back right there. So Team 12 took Drake London and JSN. Achan went to 2, Tyreek Hill, and then AJ Brown. And Billy is
right.
back on the clock.
So I'm back on the clock here. So
Is he
Tommy
going to do
knows.
it?
Uh,
All
so I will not be taking any onesie position here. It's just not not
right.
not, not from a strategy perspective. It's not how I operate.
All right.
So what I will say is there's some great options on the board. I could go double running back here, and there would be, there'd be one or two backs that I would consider going. But I think the way that we feel about the situation and the way that we were kind of talking about him in the offseason, right now, I feel very comfortable taking Brian Thomas, wide receiver from Jacksonville. I think he
I
was
thought
just
you were going. I thought you were going with your boy La Da 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 McConkey.
Ladidi Metcalfe. I see Brian Thomas just a little bit more explosive than him right now.
Okay.
I'm going to go with
You
Brian.
don't think that Hunter is going to cut into those? I
So
know, it's I'm not going to have you overthink it. Just click the button.
I already, I already made the call. So following my pick before Tommy while he thinks about it, going right after is actually two ones. We got Bowers and McBride going right after my pick. Then Ladidi went at number at 208, and now at 209 is Tommy. He's on the clock.
All right, so right in front of me, I mean, I have some pretty decent wide receivers that I would take here, but obviously, and I'm not a early quarterback guy, so I'm looking to have to really push for a running back at this point in time. The running backs that I have here right now, I have Bucky Irving, I have Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall. Personally, at this point in the draft, I am going to secure that spot with a player that I believe will still have a solo backfield, and it's going to be a Josh Jacobs.
So Tommy makes the Josh Jacobs pick leading into his next one. So Team 3 took Josh Allen, then T. Higgins went, then Bucky Irving and McLaurin went back to Team 1. McCaffrey then went at the 302, then Garrett Wilson, and Tommy's back on the clock with his third round pick.
All right, so I'm most likely going to be going back to back running back here. I just have a little bit of a hesitation because I was looking to pull the trigger on Christian McCaffrey if he fell
Hmm.
right there. Obviously, I think that would have been a fantastic pick in the third round based on his upside. But there is obviously a tremendous upside when it comes down to Jonathan Taylor. He's always been a first, second round pick for his entire career. So there's upside there. You obviously have Breece Hall sitting there as well too. But then there's two sexy picks and there's one sexy slash scary pick with Ashton Genty, and then obviously a Kyron Williams, which would be a slight reach, but I'm not going to be able to get him on the way back. So at this point in time, I do believe that having Josh Jacobs sitting there as my number one running back, I can take a slight risk if I wanted to, or if I could, wanted to be a little bit more safe. I could go with the Jonathan Taylor, but I think I'm going Austin Jetty.
Okay. Well, we say it all the time. There's always a one rookie, maybe multiple backs that makes a splash
Yep.
into the top. And I mean, and running backs in which that are have that high of draft capital, they return immediately that year.
Yep.
Some of the ones that come to mind: Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Jameer Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, now Ashton Jonty. I mean, it's going to be such a great bet. I'm surprised his ADP currently is not higher. I
Well,
see him
again,
high.
here's the thing too, right? So like, as the draft season goes on, these mocks keep going through our, progression through the off season. He will jump up probably closer to the end of the second round. He'll creep up a little bit here and there. So his ADP will creep up. Some ADPs will drop down. But I think right now fair value is, and it's super fair.
Sure. Um, coming, going after Jonty, Lamar Jackson's off the board, and then Jonathan Taylor, and then Jaden Daniels went off the board. So
Yep. It's just two quarterbacks.
the top three quarterbacks are off the board, and the top two, and the tier one tight ends are off the board, McBride and Bowers. So that leaves me. Um, so there's no way I would be taking a tight end here or a quarterback, especially not with the top tiers off the board. Not at this point. I feel like more needs to be accounted for in my team. Like we said, I got Gibbs at the top, nice and stacked it with a top tier running back, a top tier wide receiver, and Brian Thomas. And uh, now I got to make my pick. Now I'll just talk it through. More than likely, I'm going to go with Brees Hall. My trepidation on Hall is is basically the offense as a whole. I think people may have gone too far with criticizing his talent per se this year. Um, so it really depends on what you see. I'm not going wide receiver. I'm definitely going running back. The only options for me are either Brees Hall or Kyron Williams. Um, the Kyron one is a function of him getting the entire workload in Los Angeles. I don't know why he seems to just fall off the radar in terms of some people. I still think he's a great player. He's a great back. So I'd be judging between the two. I think of the two for now, I'm going to go with Brees Hall, based on the fact that it's just like I think he can return back to dominant form.
Oof. And you just missed out on Kyron on the way back.
And I just
Could have
missed
got
out
the
on
double.
Connor. Yeah, so going after me on my pick. So Devontae Adams went, then Chase Brown, Mike Evans. So a slew of running backs did go. So I'm happy I did get the running back I wanted. Mike Evans then went, who Tommy and I are both low on. I am extremely low on. Marvin Harrison finally went to Team 12. Thank God they can take that risk, because if he would have came back here, I would have to consider it.
Well,
And
if you look at Team 12, they got four wide receivers.
four wide receivers. They're going zero RB strategy. DJ
Yep.
Moore went. Kyron went. James Cook went. He's criminally underrated. If he made it back, I would have been gone. James Cook, and then
Hmm.
of course TJ Hawkinson went. So some running backs went
Now,
off the board.
just real quick too, I just want to say something real quick.
Go
I
for it.
know
Go
this
for
is
it.
your turn. But this is a double flex. So double flex meaning wide receiver, running back, and tight end.
That's right.
So this is, just to put that out there as well too, so people can understand the breakdowns of the rosters.
Absolutely. It's a great way. So I mean, to some degree, um, wide receivers are a bit more inflated in terms of value,
Hmm.
in terms of what they would normally be for a single flex, because wide receivers hold their value later. We've gone through the math of that. So that having been said, I mean, to be honest, there are some really great running backs still on the board. I'm really digging the fourth round running backs, to be honest. So maybe this is good as a future draft thing for me to keep in mind. Maybe grab a wide receiver earlier if possible. But I did want Brees Hall. That having been said, given the wide receiver options here, I am uh, I'm really interested in one of them. Let me just talk through some of the options. We've got Zay Flowers, Rasheed Rice, Cortland Sutton, and Chris Olave. Those are some of the next ones on the ADP. Of the options, I am most partial to Cortland Sutton, and I think that's the route that I'm going to go. Cortland Sutton, from I forget which week it was from last year, he was basically the wide receiver 3 or 4 for until close to the end of the year. He is back and ready to roll. The offense is going to be fine. It's going to be as good as what it was. He's in his prime. I'm rolling with Cortland Sutton. Going after me was DK Metcalf, then Jalen Hurts off the board. Zay Flowers went, and now Tommy's on the clock here.
Yeah.
Tommy, you
So I
already have a
started.
wide receiver, two running backs. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I started with CeeDee Lamb. I have Josh Jacobs and obviously Ashton Genty. So I have two running backs and one wide receiver. Um, I'm looking to potentially continue to fill that running back catching running back opportunity. Um, and there's one person that really stands out right here, which is Alvin Kamara. And he is most likely the pick at this point for me. But obviously, there are some wide receivers that are on the board that I would feel slightly comfortable with taking as well. Having Rashid Rice, I'm a little concerned about his obviously coming off an injury is one thing,
Right.
but then obviously the suspension thing, as we discussed, is another thing. Hey, Jalen Waddle, what Jalen Waddle are we going to see? So I don't know. As my fourth round pick, I feel comfortable picking a guy like him. But there is value when it comes down to a Devonta Smith, a Chris Godwin. As everybody knows, I'm very high on Chris Godwin this year. But I do think that one of those guys will fall to me. So at this pick right here, I'm going to still continue to go running back, and I will take Alvin Kamara.
Interesting. Good logic. Going after Camaro was Kenneth Walker, Olave, then Burrow. So now we got the second tier quarterbacks off the board. Hurts and Burrow are now gone. Rashid Rice on the turn. Chuba Hubbard off the board. Another great value at running back. And then Waddle is off. So thankfully, you and I don't have to make that decision now.
Correct. Correct. And now I'm on the clock again.
Right. So foregone
And
conclusion, wide receiver here.
it's a foregone conclusion. I think we all know who I'm picking here. There are a couple wide receivers. There's actually a really good running back still on the board, which I can take a running back if I want to go the RB strategy. But personally, I believe that the value taken in the fifth round for Chris Godwin coming off that injury, um, getting an extension. Obviously, they did spend did spend some draft capital in the draft on a wide receiver, but I think the system is Godwin and Evans is taking a step back slightly. Don't kill us on that one, but I think Godwin comes back and he has a tremendous year. I don't know if everybody remembers last year, he was literally number one, number two, number three for the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then that's when the injury started. So I'm taking Chris Godwin.
Okay. Um, so Godwin's off the board. Following him, Devontae Smith and David Montgomery finally is off the board. Then James Conner. I just wanted to make a quick mention. So David Montgomery would have been in consideration. However, I think to some degree you don't ever want to get quote unquote handcuffs, but the Detroit situation is so different.
Yeah.
So it's
It's
not
not
like,
really a handcuff.
yeah, they're kind of like a dual situation.
Yeah.
Although God forbid Gibbs goes down, Montgomery becomes top five. If
Yep.
Montgomery goes down, Gibbs becomes basically one or two at that point. So just worth you don't want to that one out of any other one you don't want to force. But if something manages to fall to you, which in case didn't happen, then you just move on. And if it doesn't work out, what they all right. So with my fifth round picks, I've got two running backs, two wide receivers. I've got some interesting wide receiver options. Addison, Williams, another Detroit person, but I try to mix and match my team situation a little bit. On the running back side, Mixon's still available. If anybody remembers, Mixon was a top five running back every week, essentially, until he of all the weeks that he played,
Until he
um,
wasn't because he got hurt.
until the injury. But following Mixon, there's kind of a treasure trove of kind of like lower tier running backs. You get the rookie Hampton, Pacheco, Tracy, Najee Harris, who I'm not at this point in Los Angeles. He'll get a lot of work, but I mean, he's going to lose at some point to Hampton. Um, Aaron Jones, of course, just keeps going in Minnesota. But at this point, um, so he hasn't been taken yet. So I think I'm going to take my third ranked tight end on my board is George Kittle here.
Ooh.
I think he fell over a round later than I've seen him go. Um, and I think he was the number one tight end last year. And I think that they're going to need him even more with with Debo going, with Ayuk coming
All right,
back from
take him.
the horrible situation. I am taking George Kittle.
Okay.
And also, if anybody doesn't remember, Tommy and I have an outstanding bet situation. I think George Kittle finishes as the number one pass catcher for San Francisco. He thinks it's going to
Ricky
be
Pearsall.
Ricky Pearsall. All right. So going after Kittle, we have Jameson Williams, Addison, Mixon, then Mahomes off the board now. Then Hampton, Laporta, Judge Judy going 2 picks before me. And then, of course, Tyrone Tracy. All right, so now I'm back on the board. And with this option here, there's no way I'm not taking a skill position. So I could go with uh, Pickens, the aforementioned Pickens who got traded. I'm not going anywhere near Ayuk. I could go the Khalil Shakir route. Tommy and I both think he's the number one wide receiver for Buffalo. I could go explosive with Worthy. On the running back side, like I said, I'm not interested in touching any of these guys at the moment. I think I'm going to. Uh, hmm, this is interesting. I think I could use a little bit of upside. You know what? I think I have to put my money where my mouth is because I'm the one who said that I saw something from Worthy going into the playoffs. So I'm going to go with Worthy here.
Nice waste of a pick. Good job.
I love this. I'm never allowed to have reasons for things. All right, so going to
All
yeah,
right.
go.
So
You
obviously
call it
we
out.
had
I'm
a
tired of announcing it.
we've had so obviously Xavier Worthy went, then Brandon Ayuk, Aaron Jones, and then Roma Duze went at the team 5, and now it's my turn at pick 4, coming back, well, 6, 9, which is also a great number. Um, Now the highest ranked wide receiver on the board right now is George Pickens. Now, I could take some upside with that. Basically, knowing that I'm getting low end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 numbers, and that's going to be my flex that's going to be my second flex position right there to fill. Or I can go with more consistency, as we spoke about. Khalil Shakir is sitting there as well too. Or do I take a running back at this point in time? And I believe that there's a running back that is still on the board that is going to be lightning, because right now he is the only running back in that backfield that is relevant. And I am going to take with my 6th round pick, Jaylen Warren.
Be interesting to see what they do at running back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I took Jaylen Warren. Then, Tony Pollard went to team 3. George Pickens went to team 2. Brian Robinson. Everybody hates Brian Robinson for some reason. He went to team
I know.
1.
I don't get that.
And then Najee Harris went back to back right there. So went Robinson Harris. Then Baker Mayfield's off the board and Isaiah
Ugh,
Pacheco.
I was hoping
So,
Baker would make it on the way back. I'll be honest.
yep. So I'm at my 7th round pick. We have what? We have 10 more we have 4 more rounds to go to finish off the 10 rounds. I don't have a third wide receiver on my team. So I was leaning to go Khalil Shakir in the last round. Khalil Shakir actually fell to me. So I'm going to be taking Khalil Shakir with my 7th pick.
Such a good pick. I honestly, I feel good about. I feel really good about that one. I would have taken
Thank
him.
you. I appreciate that.
So John Smith going after Khalil Shakir there. Following that, Calvin Ridley, then Cooper Kupp going. I wonder if that is a. I wonder if that is a little too late for him. I mean,
Yeah, I think
Darnold.
it is a little late.
I mean, maybe ADP will take some time to catch up. We'll see how we feel about that when we start focusing in more on rankings, etc. So I have 3 wide receivers, I have a tight end, and I have 2 running backs. I could go running back here, although I'm not crazy necessarily about some of the backs. Although we should point out, I might leave him as a shot to come back. If I look at some of the other people who have taken stuff, not a lot of running backs have come off the board from the guys for me to come back on the swing. So I'm going to play the game and see if I could get DeAndre Swift on the way back, because he's a big winner from this offseason. The Bears did
Good luck with
nothing.
that game.
The Bears did nothing to bring in a running back. They did nothing but just improve their offense other than running back. So I think DeAndre Swift is a big winner. I'm going to play that game. So what I am going to do is I'm going to take Jacoby Myers with a wide receiver.
The law
Um,
firm.
the law firm Jacoby Myers. I think that Gino is a significant upgrade. They've got Jonte in the backfield. Uh, Jacoby is by far their best wide receiver. Again, that might not be saying much, but after Bowers, he's going to be a target monster. We always say targets are king. I'm going Jacoby Myers. Let's see if I got this on the turn here. No, it was close. It was close.
So Jared Goff went after Jacoby Myers. Kyler Murray went. Ramondre Stevenson, Mark Andrews. Then you got DeAndre Swift went on the turn. Justin Herbert, Travis Kelce went in the eighth round this year, not the first round, and Travis Etienne right after that. And Billy is up.
I'm up. So I only have at this point now I've got four wide receivers and I only have two running backs. And I do have one tight end. So I'm definitely looking at running back. I feel the same way Tommy does. I could wait on quarterback and pick up one a little bit later to um to to fill in where needed. And there's some guys that we have our eye on. So I'm gonna let quarterback sit and I'm gonna just kind of glance at the running backs here. Um, Rico, there's no way I'm going that route because it's just he's the backup running back for a mid-tier team in Carolina, and Chuba we know is going to be the man there. Tajay Spears was great towards the end of the year, but again, they're on a bad team in which they're splitting reps with he'd be splitting reps with Pollard, even though Cam Ward now is the quarterback there, combination of Cam Ward and Will Levis. Tommy spoke up Javonte Williams. If nothing else, he's going to get volume. If nothing else, he's going to get volume there. And then, of course, Rashad White. I won't be caught dead taking J.K. Dobbins now, even as a free agent. So I'm going to take, after Tommy's full diatribe, I'm going to go Javonte Williams here for the volume.
Oof. All right. Well, that's a fantastic pick because I thought that he was going to last to me in this pick right here. So, good pick right there. Obviously, Javonte Williams with Tabilly at the 8-5. Then Rico Dowdle. I will not call him Rico Suave anymore because he is the number 5 running back on the roster.
Yeah, he's no longer
Um,
Rico Suave, unfortunately.
Mr. Josh Downs, and then Rashid Wright went at 8-8. And now I am up. I am on the clock. Um, like there are some wide receivers that I can take a risk on. Obviously Deebo Samuel is sitting there. I'm not so high on him, but he would technically be my fourth wide receiver. Um, I could, you know, roll with him there. I'm not too hot on Stephon Diggs, as we all know. I just still don't like Jalen McMillan because of I mean, it could be a safety pick if I took Jalen McMillan right there with having
Along with
Chris
Godwin.
with having Godwin right there. So it could be a nice safety pick, but I don't play fantasy football to be safe here. Um, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my quarterback, and this might be a little too early, but I want to get the hookup, and I'm going to take Dak Prescott over Jordan Love, Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud. Dak Prescott is on my roster.
Interesting. Well, while
So, like I
Tommy
said,
thinks,
that I probably could have waited to hit this round to take him, but
certainly.
there was no players that went off the board that I was screaming to get. So now I can kind of fiddle around some of these other players that I'm really trying to fit on my roster that may be a
So
little bit more
So while you think real quick,
tangible.
going after Dak, Tajay Spears came off Debo, then David Njoku on the turn, and Jaden Reed finally going, Stephon Diggs, who I think maybe we'll talk about in the offseason. Maybe he'll end up being a target monster himself. And then Michael Pittman going after, leaving Tommy back on the clock here. So you grabbed your quarterback, you got
Yep,
your stack connection. You probably could have waited till this round to get him, but there we go.
that's fine. Now I do want to lean and get another wide receiver since I only technically have three.
Hmm.
Um, and there are a
Still
couple
no
wide
tight end
receivers.
either.
Still no tight end. Tight end, I'm going on the last round most likely. Yeah,
Okay.
obviously they have Evan Ingram there. You have Dalton Kincaid, your favorite guy over there. I just don't know if I want to throw all my rings in the basket with Jake Ferguson, even though that is a great pick. I just don't want to have the entire Cowboys offense just in case something happens there. Um, but how it lines up in the next round, I may need to take him. But again, I am passing on tight end this round. Um, I am taking the most, I believe, relevant player on their team this year. We all spoke about it. We have that water bet, and Ricky Pearsall finds his way to my roster in the ninth
Oh
round.
my goodness. All right, so Ricky Pearsall going to Tommy. Following after him, Zach Charbonnet, whom we don't even, the backup quote unquote running back for Seattle. Evan Ingram going off the board. Then quarterback Jordan Love. Um, so I am before we start getting into a lower tier set of quarterbacks, which 100% exists down the thing. I'm going to take a shot on a guy I think is could very well finish in the top 5 to 6, maybe 5 to 7. I've already got Cortland Sutton. I'm going to grab my quarterback here in Bo Nix.
That's a nice pick right there.
Yeah, so following Bo Nix, Brock Purdy's off the board, then Caleb Williams off the board. So a bunch of people grabbing some extra quarterbacks. Ugh, then Jalen McMillan's gone. I was hoping I could get him on the way back.
But you can't.
Darnell Mooney, I forget his name, Darrell or Darnell Mooney off the board to Team 12. Then Jake Ferguson back. Then Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, I think at this point is going to be irrelevant, but whatever. Dalton Kincaid and Tucker Kraft off the board. So a lot of tight ends going. Tommy's going to have some interesting shots to take a little later here. Um, so I'm back on the
Well,
clock.
this is the last round. This is the last round. Just a reminder.
That's right. That's right. So then you definitely make sure you get a tight end here. So I'm back on the clock here. Just to surmise, just to update everybody, I've got 3 running backs. I've got 4 wide receivers. I got my tight end, and I've got my quarterback. More than likely, just to close out the round, and just to get everybody rocking and rolling here. I think I'm going to. Let's see. We got some nice people in best available. I'm not feeling anything about. Um, some of the tertiary wide receiver options here. Christian Kirk, I'm not feeling. Amari Cooper, if he's not going to go back to Dallas now, we don't think. We're not sure. Keon Coleman, secondary wide receiver for Buffalo. Hollywood Brown, I've already got Worthy. Ted McMillan, super talented, but they've got so many wide receivers in Carolina at this point. Um, Running backs options, Dobbins, like I said, it's not going to happen. Travion Henderson not happening on a bad offense. Blake Corum as the backup running back there. Jerome Ford, who is the running back in Cleveland.
Billy's literally going through all the list of running backs right now.
I think what I'm going to do for the sake of this draft is I'm going to go Jerome Ford. Volume, volume, volume. And Nick Chubb is not going in to steal any thunder there. So I want Jerome
They
Ford.
also haven't signed him yet.
Yeah, it'll happen.
So after Jerome Ford, they got Mr. Tank Bigsby, C.J. Stroud, and then Tua goes to Team 5. And I am on the clock for my final pick of this draft. I am forced to take a tight end because I have to fill this beautiful role right here. But I will tell you something right now. There are 2 streamable tight ends. At this point, you're not picking up a tight end to sit on your, sit in your roster week in, week out. But there could be a player sitting here that is not named Mr. Kyle Pitts, that I will feel comfortable putting on my roster and potentially rolling with him week in, week out. There's 2 players. One is Zach Ertz, who I spoke a lot about, very highly about this entire off season and past couple days. And another one where we all spoke very highly about is Mr. Isaiah Likely. Now, Isaiah Likely is right now ranked 171 rank out of all fantasy football
That's just
ADP.
sleeper.
Take it as you mean, take it as you like it right there. But I believe based on talent, I think based on athleticism, I think based on how that offense is going to run smoothly in Lamar Jackson's what, ninth year, eighth, ninth year, and with how Mark Andrews fell off the map a lot last year, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, is it redemption? Who knows? But I will take the risk with my 10th pick to go with Isaiah Likely,
Okay. So there we
and
go.
that's it right there.
Yeah, that's it. So just to close out the 10th round after likely Dobbins finally went, then Cooper, two people who don't have teams, and then Drake May to close everything out. So we could
Yep.
continue, but we'll keep it good. That's about it for 10
We're
rounds.
gonna
I
keep
mean,
it there. Yeah, I mean, basically the way it finished up, I'll just go through our roster. So I got the connection between Dak and CeeDee Lamb. Then my running backs are Josh Jacobs, Ashton Genty, and then wide receiver. That's on my roster is basically second wide receiver is Chris Godwin. Then I have Isaiah Likely as my tight end. Wide then your flex right here, I have Alvin Kamara, Jalen Warren, and then my two bench players as of right now. Obviously, that will change through the weeks. But again, this is just a mock draft. Khalil Shakir and Ricky Pearsall.
yep. From my end, my quarterback is Bo Nix. My running backs are Jameer Gibbs and Brees Hall. My wide receivers are Brian Thomas and Cortland Sutton. So I've got the Bo Nix Cortland Sutton connection. My tight end is George Kittle, and I'm very happy about where I got Kittle there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good
my
value.
flex options are Worthy and Myers, and filling out the bench, I've got my backup running backs Javonte Williams and Jerome Ford, volume kings that we think for this year. So there we go. Um, that's our mock draft for this episode. Any closing thoughts, Mr. Lang?
Um, no, I mean, basically, we appreciate everybody that takes the time to watch the video. Obviously, everybody loves mock drafts, so tune into our most likely bi-weekly mock drafts. We'll see how the changes of the trends are and whatnot. So we can really show you the analytics behind that as well too. And we could really come to a conclusion as the season gets closer on what um, our rankings are. So we can really put all that information out there, and you guys could see how the trends go when it comes down to the drafting. But again, if you guys could like, subscribe, share, we truly appreciate it. Here from beautiful Florida, only 6.5 hours away drive from my house in Bluffton. We appreciate that's in South Carolina. We appreciate everything y'all do for us. And again, if you guys could share, subscribe, like it.
There we go. And appreciation from Jersey too. So there we go.
Jersey's only good for their food.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody.